Hi, I'm James Izimoha, and you're watching A News Weekend. Here are your top stories. Missile and drone attacks from Ukraine strike two Russian towns, one day after Kyiv was targeted. Both sides see deaths and casualties. German Christmas market tragedy. The death toll of the Magdeburg attack rises. A country divided, with protests for and against the impeachment of South Korea's president. Missile and drone attacks have struck two Russian towns, with authorities responding to the aftermath just a day after Ukrainian capital city Kyiv also faced one of the largest attacks.
In Russia's Kursk region, a Ukrainian missile attack on the town of Relsk has left 6 dead and 10 injured. The acting governor, Alexander Kinstein, says Ukraine had fired US-supplied HIMARS rockets, damaging several buildings including a school, recreation center, and private residences. Meanwhile, in Kazan, Ukrainian drones targeted a residential building, causing a fireball. While there were no casualties, the city's airport briefly suspended flights, and public events were cancelled. Authorities are still assessing the damage. Ukraine was also hit with one of the biggest attacks yesterday. Russian forces launched 8 missiles, including hypersonic Kinzhal and Iskander missiles, with Ukrainian air defenses attempting to intercept the strike. 1 killed and at least 13 people were injured in capital city Kyiv, according to local police. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that during the week, Russia used more than 550 guided aerial bombs, about 550 attack drones, and more than 20 missiles against Ukraine.
The death toll of the attack in Germany's city of Magdeburg has risen. This comes after a car drove through a crowd in the marketplace on Friday. Officials believe the incident was a deliberate attack and have since arrested the suspected driver, who they believe was acting alone.
This is the moment a car plowed through a crowd at a Christmas market in Germany's city of Magdeburg. Officials have detained the suspected driver, who they've identified as a 50-year-old man from Saudi Arabia, and believe it was a deliberate attack.
The perpetrator has been arrested. He entered the Federal Republic of Germany for the first time in 2006. He had a settlement permit and thus a permanent residence permit, and had last worked as a doctor in Bernburg. According to our current knowledge, he acted as a lone offender. There is no information about other perpetrators.
Social media accounts believed to be linked to the suspect show posts threatening to punish German authorities for what the user claims are a series of deliberate crimes against Saudi refugees. Locals who were present during the incident say the aftermath was chaotic, but are grateful for the response of the rescue teams.
I myself was there very early yesterday because I'm from Magdeburg, and I also experienced this chaos, where first of all was a matter of sorting things out, and that does something to you. Of course, it gets to you, and we also need to process things, and thankfully we have a good network and are also there to provide aftercare for rescue workers and firefighters and support them in the aftermath. So the real work starts now.
Germany's Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, has visited the scene and says the attack is a terrible act. Scholz also calls for an investigation into the matter.
It is now important that we clarify the situation and that this is done with the utmost precision and accuracy. Nothing must remain uninvestigated, and that is how it will be. We've assured each other of this everywhere, the federal government with the states, with all those who have local responsibility here. And of course, we must understand the perpetrator, his actions, his motives, so that we can respond with the necessary criminal and other consequences, and we will.
Other statements from officials, including Germany's foreign minister and interior minister, have all expressed their condolences to the victims and pledged to stand with the people of Magdeburg. World leaders from France, Italy, Spain, and Poland have also reacted to the tragic incident and expressed their deep condolences to those affected. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen expressed similar remarks in statements on social media. This attack follows a similar incident in 2016 in Germany's capital, Berlin, where a truck driven by a failed Tunisian asylum seeker crashed into a crowded Christmas market, killing 12 people. The Magdeburg attack has prompted several other German towns to cancel their weekend Christmas markets as a precaution and out of solidarity for Magdeburg's loss.
In Croatia, a community mourns the tragic loss of a young life. Residents of Zagreb gathered for a vigil to honor a 7-year-old child killed in a brutal stabbing attack at a primary school.
A quiet vigil lit up the night as grieving residents placed lanterns and toys at the site of the horrific attack in Zagreb, Croatia. The tragedy unfolded when a 19-year-old former student entered the school, stabbing 5 people, including students and a teacher. The attack left a 7-year-old girl dead and injured 6 others. Authorities say the attacker injured himself during the incident and is now in custody. The motive remains unclear, but the shockwaves have left the community grappling with questions about safety in schools.
My 7-year-old niece is in the first classroom next door to where the attack happened. It could have been her. It could have been any child of ours. We must fight for the safety of children in schools and kindergartens. You send a child to school. It is safe, but is it really safe? If it was safe, we would not be here.
The tragedy has reignited discussions on school security in Croatia. As families mourn, they also call for urgent measures to prevent such horrors in the future.
The United Nations Security Council has extended its peacekeeping mission in the Golan Heights for another 6 months. This decision comes as the tensions between Syria and Israel remain high. Israeli troops have entered the demilitarized zone, which was established after 1973 Arab-Israeli war, following the fall of Bashar al-Assad. Israeli officials have described the move as a limited and temporary measure to ensure the security of Israel's borders. However, they have not indicated when the troops might be withdrawn. The Security Council emphasized the importance of all parties adhering to the ceasefire terms to avoid escalating tensions. The International Organization for Migration has warned the United Nations that Syria is unprepared for a large return of refugees. Since December 8, many Syrian refugees who had previously fled to Turkey, Iraq, Jordan and Lebanon started returning after opposition forces took control of the capital city, Damascus. However, in Geneva, the Director General of International Organization for Migration, Amy Pope, warned that Syria is not yet ready to receive the refugees. She highlighted the country's inability to take a large scale of displaced civilians at this time.
What we see on the ground is that if there are overwhelming numbers of people who go home now into what is an incredibly fragile situation, it will overwhelm the country and it could risk greater, more destructive impact on a very fragile peace process.
After Cyclone Chido's devastation, Mayotte faces severe food and water shortages. In Mamoudzou, residents queued for water, urging President Macron's government for more aid.
Although days have passed since the cyclone struck Mayotte, people are still experiencing the tragic consequences of the natural disaster. In Mamoudzou, the capital of Mayotte, some neighborhoods have been reduced to ruins. Aid distribution has been slow, leaving many in a desperate situation. Local residents have lined up outside the city's supermarket to obtain water.
We've been here since 10 a.m. to get water because water is very important and getting only 1 pack of bottles is not enough.
Healthcare workers have reported that they are preparing for an increase in diseases due to the presence of unburied bodies and the difficulties people are facing in accessing clean drinking water. The situation in Mayotte remains dire after Cyclone Chido. President Macron arrived in Mayotte on Thursday and was met with an angry reception in the city of Pamandzi. Residents shouted and booed, accusing the government of failing to respond promptly to the crisis.
We don't understand what he came to do. In fact, I heard someone on TV say that he could have taken a postcard. That would have been enough. I don't understand. I did not expect anything. I did not expect anything from him, and it did not fail.
Cyclone Chido is the worst storm the area has faced in 90 years. Mayotte officials have only been able to confirm 31 deaths. However, some are concerned that thousands of people may have been killed. The most affected neighborhoods, the hillside shanty towns, have still not been reached by rescue workers.
I think it's a shame that a president came to a territory in a situation like this to address the population this way, because I don't think it's just Mayotte that has suffered the situation. There are several people who have suffered this disaster, and yet they have managed to get through it without France being there.
The population struggling to cope with the scale of the disaster in Mayotte, the poorest of France's overseas territories, targeted him.
With all the promises he'd made to us about Mayotte that he'd never kept, I was really shocked.
According to the official 2023 budget documents, the French government spent approximately 1.6 billion euros per year on Mayotte, which accounts for about 8% of the budget allocated to overseas territories, or 4,900 euros per inhabitant. This figure is 7,200 euros for residents of Reunion Islands and 8,500 euros for residents of Guadeloupe.
To South Korea now, where as a result of the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol, people are divided. In Seoul, protests are taking place for both and against the head of the state.
Thousands of supporters of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol gathered in Seoul, calling for his impeachment to be overturned after he was removed from office nearly a week ago over a controversial martial law decree.
As a citizen, I'm really sad the impeachment motion was passed. I really can't stand to see the